What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. I'm Michigan Sports Talk here, and in this one, we go over some great news that Michigan got on the defensive side as they are set to return two key players out of Rayshaun Benny and Rod Moore. We go over just how good the Michigan defense and the defensive line can be for Michigan next season. Then we also go over a couple of 2026 targets for Michigan as Wolverines coaching staff is out on the road seeing top targets, including the #1 ranked recruit in the 2026 class. We also give a Michigan basketball update as the Wolverines lose a close loss to Minnesota in overtime. We go over all that and more in this video, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so Michigan football just got some great news on the defensive side as it has been confirmed by MLive's Ryan Zook as he spoke with Michigan defensive line coach Lou Esposito, and he said that the defensive tackle Rayshaun Benny will be back next year. And that's one major player Michigan was hoping to get back. It was looking good for them, and even though he hasn't announced himself, Lou Esposito did say that he would be coming back next season for a 5th season with the Wolverines. It is big news for Michigan, an experienced player that's going to be playing some very important minutes on the inside and probably could be a starter on the defensive line next season for Michigan. This past season he had 15 solo tackles, 29 total tackles, 1.5 sacks, also had 2 pass deflections, and during the 2023 season he was also a great rotational piece, 27 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass deflection. So the Michigan native Rayshaun Benny coming back next season for Michigan. Some big time news for the Wolverines as he looks to finish out his Michigan career, trying to win another championship with the Wolverines. So you love to see it. Obviously, Michigan did get 2 defensive tackles from the transfer portal out of Damon Payne and Trey Williams as Michigan is looking to replace both Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant in the inside. And getting Rayshaun Benny back was crucial for Michigan because of that reason. And we've talked about Michigan's defensive line going into next season. You know, the younger players put it on display against Alabama. This defensive line is going to be very good next season again. They got on the edge, you're going to have TJ Guy and Derek Moore, but you're also going to have Jayshawn Barham, who didn't enter the NFL draft either. He's coming back for sure to Michigan next season. And obviously, you know, there's been talk about him switching to the edge position. It is up to him. I do think we will see him probably be playing both at the edge position and at linebacker next season. And again, in the inside, you got a lot of players, which is very much needed for depth. You got Trey Williams, Damon Payne, Rayshaun Benny, Enow Etta, Trey Pierce, Ike Iwana, and others. And at edge, we've talked about it. You know, you got TJ Guy again, Derek Moore, Jayshawn Barham, Cameron Brandt, Dominic Nichols, and others. So defensive line, Michigan gets some great news. Rayshaun Benny returning next season, and then also Rod Moore, Sharon Moore did say that it is looking good that Michigan safety Rod Moore will be staying and returning for the 2025 season, but we'll let him officially announce his decision. He hasn't announced it either, but he is expected to come back as well. And that was really Michigan's main players they wanted to retain other than, you know, Kenneth Grant. Mason Graham was obviously already going to go and enter the NFL draft, but Kenneth Grant was really the only player I think they had a chance potentially at returning, but that was going to be tough you know, to do as well, just because he's probably going to be potentially going in the 1st round as well, or early 2nd round, but probably in the 1st round, along with Colston Loveland, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, and even potentially Josiah Stewart. So good news there. It is, you know, all coming together right now. Michigan, obviously the coaches said that retaining players was the first priority, but they also wanted to hit the transfer portal hard as well, which they are still doing. They still need a couple more players from the transfer portal to fill a couple more needs, but so far they've done a great job. But next thing I wanted to talk about is some recruiting news for the Wolverines, and a couple of recruits in the 2026 class, which really haven't talked too much about the 2026 class, but it is around that time where we switch to 2026 recruits. We'll first start with the 2026 4-star wide receiver Mason James. 5'11", 170-pound wide receiver from the state of Oklahoma, ranked 172nd nationally on 24/7 Sports rankings, one of Michigan's top wide receiver targets. As he told Bryce Merritt of the Michigan Insider that they say they're gonna, try and come towards the end of the month and visit with him, but they have been in great contact with him. He also likes the fact that Michigan does have quarterback Bryce Underwood. He said, "For sure, it is something I look at with Bryce now on the roster. I think it's crazy and a good way to turn around Michigan's offense moving forward." So Michigan is appealing to Mason James, a top wide receiver target for Michigan, and obviously the Bryce Underwood effect should be in place for the 2026 class and moving forward for Michigan with getting and landing elite wide receivers in the future. Then also wanted to talk about the number one ranked nationally recruit 2026 5-star offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell, 6'8", 300-pound offensive tackle from the state of Missouri. As according to E.J. Holland of the Wolverines, Michigan head coach Sharon Moore and also general manager Sean McGee did make their way to Missouri to see the 5-star and number one ranked nationally recruit Jackson Cantwell. He did recently make a visit to Michigan, also to Ohio State. Michigan is facing stiff competition, obviously, but they are a top school. He did say that he will probably be back for a visit, maybe for a spring practice, because he didn't get to see the big house the last time he was on a visit, because he was on or short on time. So Michigan going after another 5-star offensive tackle, and I tell you what, if Michigan can land Ty Haywood, they'd have 2 5-star offensive linemen in the 2025 class, trying to add another one in the 2026 class, and that would be very Sharon Moore-like to get these 5-star offensive linemen to Ann Arbor, as he takes a lot of pride in the offensive line. Michigan is also a top school for the 2026 4-star edge Jackson Ford from the state of Pennsylvania, and Michigan defensive line coach Lou Esposito did make his way to visit him when he was on the recruiting trail, and told DJ Holland of the Wolverine that we're big fans of Coach Espo. He's down-to-earth, realistic guy, and he said my parents really like him and the Michigan program. He said that Coach Moore has a great program, is building great men, and so the Michigan defense is relentless. I can see myself fitting into that, and he said Michigan is definitely up there high on his list. Those are a couple of 2026 recruits right there for Michigan. Michigan high on their list in a top school. Then I wanted to end this video by talking about Michigan basketball, and obviously the Wolverines suffered a tough loss last night on the road against Minnesota, who is not a great team. They picked up their first Big Ten win of the season against Michigan. So Michigan, they lost in overtime on a buzzer beater from Dawson Garcia. Obviously it sucks, especially to lose to that team, but I don't think it's really time to panic about this team. Obviously Michigan does have to bounce back with a win against Northwestern as they return home, but as many know, it is very hard to win on the road in the Big Ten, no matter who you're going up against. It's always been like that in the past as well, but Michigan really struggled offensively, and they went 12 for 30 on dunk or layup attempts, and obviously credit to Minnesota's defense, but the Wolverines just could not finish at the rim. They also turned the ball over 13 times last night, which obviously has been an issue all season. And while Michigan did out-rebound Minnesota, Minnesota had 15 offensive rebounds, which just cannot happen. Michigan did have many starters who just had off nights. First of all, Denny Wolf had a few turnovers in the first half that put him on the bench early in the game, but Roddy Gale Jr. Only had 2 points, and Amari Burnett was scoreless in the first half and only finished with 6 points. So it was definitely a rough night for the Wolverines. They just obviously did not play good at all, and really they did not deserve to win that game last night with the way they played, especially late in the second half after leading by multiple possessions and by double digits. But Michigan goes to 13-4 overall, 5-1 in Big Ten. They do have a big game coming up against Purdue, which is next Friday, and then obviously they still have the game against Northwestern this Sunday at 2 p.m. trying to bounce back, but they do go on the road next Friday against Purdue, and that's going to be a big game for the Wolverines as they look to bounce back. This team is still very talented, just had a rough night last night, and they still almost pulled it off, which is pretty incredible, but obviously cannot have games like this, especially against the last place team like Minnesota, but should be a nice wake-up call for the team, and obviously you learn more with the loss. But Michigan now has 4 losses, all with a combined 8 points. They lost by 8 points, or I should say a combined 8 points in all of their 4 losses, which is really incredible. The one thing I will say about Michigan last night, watching them, they have a special player out of Danny Wolf, and I tell you what, that guy is going to really be stepping up huge for Michigan late in March and in the NCAA tournament, because he made some clutch shots for the Wolverines, kept them in the game, and really was the go-to guy late in the game. And in overtime, he made 2 clutch threes at the end of regulation, and then he also made a clutch basket getting to the rim to tie the game right before Minnesota hit the game-winning buzzer beater. So the Wolverines got to bounce back now. Rough loss last night, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just obviously was not their night. But with that, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to go ahead, drop a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more. If you are new around here, I greatly appreciate it. And we will see you guys in the next video. Go Blue.